Hi, hello, I'm Eric. I want to say thank you all for being here tonight. I wish I could be here with you. I want to thank especially Elizabeth, Bonnie, Sudesh, and Billy Collins for seeing promise in my work. And I really wish I could hear you all read your work too, um, and celebrate it with you. This poem is a Japanese traditional form called a renga. It's not obvious from the look of the long lines, but if you break it into pieces, you'll see it's written in syllabic lines: 5 syllables, 7, then 5, followed by 7, 7. And it's repeated 18 times. Usually a collaborative form, but here it was done in light of the themes uh, in solitude by me instead of a group. It's also wildly discursive. It's supposed to jump around, and that gave me a lot of freedom to talk about a few different paintings of interest to me. So the epigraph is taken from the letters that Van Gogh wrote to his brother. Someone has a great fire in his soul, and nobody ever comes to warm themselves at it. And passers-by see nothing but a little smoke at the top of the chimney, and then go on their way. Irises. When my friend's boyfriend's mother died of a tumor, there were umpteen cards in the sympathy section to choose between, and one said, "It's hard to find words," a line I could have written for $4.99, but the front had that painting by Van Gogh, that cobalt blue, the most expensive of the tubes his brother sent to support his work. Iris blossoms fluttering like a moth in different states of flight, and I bet you'd recognize the image. In some hotel rooms, they'll hang two of the same print, one over each of the beds, or maybe you know, if you saw it in person and checked the small plaque, how he'd paint in the garden of St. Remy's Asylum. The jaded watchman at the threshold to the next room of landscapes stared as I leaned toward the picture, but kept a mannered distance. How this man became iconic of unyielding devotion to light, his ravenous eyes wolfing down the flowers before him, is no mystery. Just look at those irises, the ones in his eyes. And this portrait of himself as a monk with shaven head, his lids Japanesed, a bow to Hiroshige, whose sudden downpour he'd copied as a student, enthralled with the quiet work of the knife that kept carving as peasants bolted over the footbridge and the boatman leaned harder on his pole to get to shore. Using the same strokes he'd use for a field of wheat along his bristling jaw, around the cranial curve, the part of the head that's safe to treat as a thing, he arrives at his own eyes, ablaze with distrust. And when you sit for hours to study how the lamplight breaks across your brow, the bridge of your nose, you might be surprised how long it takes, not just to trace all the parts, but to be seen by yourself. The eye that looks back, whichever one you try to pin down, will slightly shift to consider itself. So you end up having two disconnected eyes, each squinting through the mask of who you think you are. A backdrop of emerald radiating from his head obliterates, but only in part, the letters "A mon ami Paul." This gift he made of himself, then chose to give to himself. I once met a man who had played Jesus on stage, and he said how strange it felt after the curtain to be watched in the lobby by the audience, how no one would talk to him or return his gaze, how empty the moonlit roads, how desolate the bike ride home. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful night. And again, I wish I could be there. Thank you.